Okay, good to see you, Mr. Larubi.
Thank you.
Yes, I would want you to introduce yourself to our audience, tell them who you are and what jury do you report about.
My name is Pat Robert Larubi. I'm a freelance travel journalist. I do photos, but I'm also a health news reporter. As a bit, I think I focused more on reporting on health and disability, or disability and health. And that is where most of my interest has been, relating to events and current affairs of what is happening within that arena.
Mr. Larubi, what is the difference between a normal story and a public affairs story? How would you describe a normal story and a public affairs story? How do you differentiate between the two?
You see, when you look at a public affairs story, if our roads are bad, I live in Nigeria, where currently the road stretching from Nigeria to Bolindo is very bad. That is a policy issue. A community person like me cannot wake up one day and begin putting sand because I am trying to fill the potholes. So public affair reporting, we are talking about policies, we are talking about leadership, how is it structured, we are talking about laws. What are the laws? Some laws say you cannot invest in this and this. So when it comes to policy on what is affecting the community, when it comes to deliberation on issues at parliament, that is where you have the catchment phrase. But a community story can be a music event, a festival, you know, people saying we are going to celebrate the birth of twins. That's communities. It makes them happy as a community. It is for their happiness, it's for their sake. However, the journalists will also pick interest. We always come to the Imbalo, for example, and that is a community event. However, if policies are going to be put in place where Parliament is going to discuss Imbalo and say maybe they have to quote some things on human rights
or even regulate
it, then you find that now it has become a public context things because laws are starting to wake up on it. So that is how you try to gauge. Another thing you look at is if we are having a problem of water. While water shortage is a two-way issue, water problem in a community can be solved by a community digging their own wells. I come from a community where people still dig wells. Every day we come to community, all of us say, this month it's the community cleaning the well. Everyone comes. It's for our own welfare as the community on ground. However, if the parliamentarians now come and we're telling them there's a water problem because of drought, what is the government doing in terms of solving the problem of water caused by drought? So if there are going to be some actions taken in terms of aligning the shortage of water to a bigger scale and not to only a particular community, now that's a public opinion thing.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some of the challenges that the citizen journalism has caused to public affairs reporting in today's world? Because we see that citizen journalism has taken over a lot because of the digital era, the internet that has come on, and it's really sweeping across the globe. But what are some of these challenges that citizen reporting, citizen journalism has caused to public affairs?
Citizen journalism, for me, has been an opportunity. It has just reawoken the serious journalists out of their bed. Every time a community breaks a story, it's the work of the journalists to get out of their comfort zone to go and investigate. So if you're not a serious journalist, you'll keep on riding on this misleading information in case they are not fact-checked. You keep on misriding on them in case they're just stories it's a political propaganda. For you to be serious, you must go and report beyond what the community is saying. And that's what makes you a journalist. Not a journalist who depends on rumor, social media posts. Even in social media, go and verify.
Reporters go through a lot of challenges. Now we're speaking about the public affairs reporters. They encounter a number of challenges basically in the field during the execution of their duties. What are some of these challenges that you could highlight that public affairs reporters experience?
In one way or the other, as you report on public affairs, you're stepping on the toes of the other big boys.
Yes, because there's accountability.
There's accountability factor of it.
Yes.
You're trying to follow the money, and as you trace for the money, the people you're trying to talk about or want to speak two. One, are so secretive, they don't want to give you the information. Even when we know as a country that we have the Access to Information Act, who honors it? No one. So, one, you don't have access to the information even when the law says you have. It's just a law with no practice. Second thing, every time you speak hard about that political person, that politician, that leader, that public opinion seeker, you are stepping on their toes. You are bound to cause two things. One, risk being arrested. Two, you are also you're calling violence on yourself. Because we have seen journalists being battered, we have seen journalists being arrested, we have seen some of them being kidnapped. The drones have reduced now. But it doesn't mean the absence of the drone is the absence of people being arrested. All these are threats that really put the guys who do a lot of public affairs reporting on the spotlight. However, you should also understand that while we take on the beats, people are going for the easy trade. You understand? When I say easy trade is I'm saying I don't like politics. Why? They can't give you an answer. Somebody say, I like to report on business. We have beats. We have sport politics, we have sports, we have agriculture and other things. Most of our people are now going for the easy prey. Self-censorship. Guys are running away, say, these kind of stories, I'm not interested. The major question is not them wanting, but also the level. The knowledge gap is also a big critical thing that affects the whole concept of public affairs reporting. The other issue I told you was the issue of impunity. Sometimes you go to an office, you want to meet the right person who is charged with the ability to communicate to a company or communicate to a journalist, but because the receptionist or the people in between cannot allow you, you can't get the policymakers to comment on your topic. At the end of the day, the journalists have gone to the talking heads. Yes. People who have no authority but have a loud voice to speak even over issues what they don't understand. That is where we have a problem. Lastly, you and me should understand that right now technology has taken over. If you're not fast, you are the last. Exactly. People are rushing to break stories. In the process of breaking stories, we are also consuming a lot of misinformation, or we are consuming a lot of news that is not filtered, verified, quantified. We are only taking quantity and not quality. Why? Because everyone wants to break news. That is associated with the technical skills. What do you know in regards to technology? Technology is competing with the marketing. Some newsrooms are collapsing now because the digital spaces have taken a share of the business. Okay. So for you who is not innovating, you are actually the last because you first want your story to go to the newspaper. You have not adapted to the change. You have not adapted to the change. The technology people, the bloggers and what have you, how you call them, even when they are not verified or regulated, are breaking the stories all the time. Legacy media house outlets are struggling. Why? Because the revenue share is collapsing, because they are failing to adapt to technology. Exactly. They are still crawling in the old system. It's no longer working.
Like any other trade, public affairs reporting would require specific skills that someone needs to possess for them to execute very effectively this particular bit. What are some of these specific skills that you feel a public affairs reporter must possess?
Beyond your education as a journalist, you must be driven by enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
And passion. If you're not passionate about what you want and what you want to achieve, then you don't know what you're doing. So beyond education, passion, what drives you? Do you love policies? Do you love politics? What is your interest? I told you I've been reporting on health. I don't do these other stories. It doesn't mean I don't have the interest. I have, but my passion is driven by my interest. That is one. Two, you and me, before you start to report on issues of parliament, issues of politics, issues of policies, the alcohol control bill, for example, that is eating people's head, when to drink, how to drink, it has gone to a loggerhead. It's a current public affair reporting. People want to drink. Parliament wants to control how we drink. Consumers want to bring alcohol. We are lost in between. You must go and do thorough research.
So it must be a good researcher.
Research, analyze, populate the data, bring it in context to people. I would say popcorn journalism no longer works, where you just come and say the parliament has restricted alcohol without statistics, without figures, without data.
Yes.
What are you telling us? It's just common noise. This has happened, policy has come. What is the statistics to back up your reporting? That is where you help the policymakers to also go back and think, are we stepping right or we are stepping wrong? Remembering the fact that we also have reactional leaders in these public spaces. They only want to react to everything that comes, even when they don't have a clear understanding of it. So you should know who are your sources in terms of that. It's very, very critical. The other thing, you must understand that when we say, in the other question of the challenges, not accessing the people to talk to. What are your interpersonal skill levels?
Exactly.
How do you relate to people? How do you talk to people? As a journalist, how do you dress? How do you speak? Because at the end of the day, your social interaction skills helps very much for a source to understand, oh, I think this is a good journalist. He's very approachable, is sensitive to this and this. So you as a person, you must also improve on that. The daily social life skills. Some people say, I don't talk to such and such because of this. If you already have a biased understanding of a person or a personality you want to interview or talk to, you're going to give us a misleading story.
Okay, just quickly.
Finally, the last one is education. Go to school, study, stick to a niche that makes you happy.
This brings me to the next question of how social media is relevant to public affairs reporting, because we're living in this digital era and you know that we can't do without social media. How relevant is social media on public affairs reporting?
You know, what you need to do is when you're building an audience, we have the virtual and the digital audience. Virtual, these are the digital guys, but we also have the usual, the everyday population. People who cannot sit on TV, who cannot be on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. Our parents in the village will sit on radio and TV to watch. However, for you as a digital news platform, as a digital reporter, or somebody reporting on current affairs, if people associate with you in regards to policies, the laws, if you post it on social media, you're building an audience. That audience in the long run translates into money. And that is what we say, the views per click. It's very good for making an impression. It's very good for building an audience. It's very good for making money. And every person must tap into that potential as the world goes digital.
We know that sometimes it's very difficult to obtain information from particular sources, especially for public affairs reporting. How can one handle a difficult source, in your opinion, for them to be able to obtain relevant information to this public affairs reporting?
For me, I think for you to access source, I talked of the interpersonal skills.
Yes.
What is your interpersonal skills relation? How do you relate with the source? When you get to the source, how do you talk to? Do you always prepare the source before you talk to them? Some sources will say, yes, I would be interested in your interview. Send me a list of questions before I can reply to you. That is preparing them psychologically. If you bump in them, you're likely to get misleading information. So one is find what is the interest of the source? What can I get from him that I cannot get? However, where it fails, then you can think of alternative sources. Knowing that not only one person has all these knowledge things. Unless you're investigating a corruption scandal, still you can get the whistleblowers to give you the information. It doesn't mean that the people will not always discard your interest. So you have to know how you can gauge this interest.
Perfect. Just continuing to that again, speaking about investigation, how would you conduct an investigative story as a public affairs reporter, basically?
There are stages of doing a story. We always start with the research, which is the pre-production. During the pre-production, you are trying to assemble what is the investigative story you want to come with. The topic, the flow of the story. Who are the people?
What are the sources?
Who are the sources? Once you have come to the sources, now you come to the production phase. The production phase, how many people do I need to speak to make my story come true? The production phase has a lot of things. One, if you're investigating corruption, it involves research, getting data, putting it together. Whatever data you bring together, you're going to analyze, You understand? You're going to compute, because if it is involving money, you have statistics. How much money was stolen, when, where, and how has been the trend for the many years. Okay. So for you as a journalist, you must be able to understand and analyze. Now, this goes beyond reading the books. I told you about the popcorn stories. Don't just write for us a story because it is a big story, but go and check. 2, verify who is saying what, where, and how. How many bloggers have written in the same context? What do they say? You understand? You build on that. And then I want to tell people that in public affairs reporting, sometimes we also have the digital fact-checking tools. This is true, this is false. This is true, this is false. Somebody takes a photo from Karamoja, he tells you a photo has been taken in Burkina Faso. Today, we saw in one of the areas in Bugisu sub-region where the land got a crack. You understand? Now, a Google image reverse search will tell you where exactly that photo was taken. However, a journalist who wants to plagiarize will steal the photo, use it in another context, and yet he doesn't know that these photos are being tagged to a location. So while we also embrace the digital tools, we must know, how do we fact check? How do we use the tools to make sure that we verify that facts are facts and not just riding on false assumption, so that we avoid misinforming the population.
We know that the trade of journalism has a number of beats according to what the industry holds today. But how important is it for a beat in this trade of journalism? How important is it that you should have a particular beat?
I've told you I reported on health. What inspired me to start reporting about the health condition of people with disability was the conditions they go through. One, emotionally I got attached.
Sure.
I felt like whatever was happening was part of me. So that was that connection. That connection inspired me to even do more. And when I did more reporting on that, I built my own brand. The brand is what identifies you. That if you want to report on health, it must be Paul. If you want to report on politics, it must be Pat. That helps to give a journalist what we call a brand identity, but also a stand in the public space. The moment you don't have an identity, I am a journalist, what do you report? Everything. That means you know nothing.
You can't be a jack of all trades, basically.
You can't. That is pretense. Because the moment you say you want to be everything, actually you are now like the yellow journalist or the brown envelope journalist who just want to hawk from one place to another place. They're like grasshoppers. Like wherever I go, if there's food, then I will eat. If it is not there, I will survive. Journalism is not about survival. You're either real or you're fake, and you're fake and out of business.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ruby.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.